Hey there guys, welcome back. So got all our textures baked out and we have a bunch of maps which are just over here. So today we're going to start touching them up and fixing them and then making sure that we can stick them all together and make them all work. So what I'm going to do first is focus on the head because it makes the most sense. So I'm going to go to the head and I'm going to select all of these maps, just hold down shift and click on the last one, and then I'm going to drag and drop them into Photoshop and we'll get them all open up here. And what I'm going to do now is just open up a new document. I'm going to set this at 4096 by 4096 and I'm going to set the background, I'll set that as black once we actually get in there. So let's just grab a black background, just select the paint bucket tool and make that black. And from here we're just going to start organising our things. So we're going to bring in the V-cols, which are going to be our diffuse textures. So I'm actually going to add a black background to this as well, just because it's going to be a little bit easier. So if we don't add a black background, then when I copy it, it's not going to paste it exactly in the right position, so we'll end up getting things misaligned. So what I'm going to do here is just, now I've created a new layer behind my original and painted it black. I'm just going to hold down Control Shift Alt and E, and that's going to flatten everything down. Just going to do Select All and copy, and I'm going to paste this in here, and I'm going to close down the V-cols. I'm going to go to the ambient occlusion and do the same thing in here. I'm going to put a black background on, set the top layer, Control Shift Alt and E, select all, edit copy, and paste them down, and I'm going to do this all across here. So for the normal maps, ideally I'd like to set the a proper normal map tone for the background, so that's pretty easy to do. So the best colour to use for a neutral normal map, so if we open up the colour picker and in the RGB values, if we type in 128 by 128 and followed by 255, that will give us the perfect neutral normal map colour. Now some people say that the values for normal maps should be 127, 127, 255, but really the actual best value for a neutral normal map would be 127.5, because half of 255 would be 127.5, but 128 tends to give completely straight normal maps, so it doesn't have any sort of bending whatsoever, which is great for filling in seams and stuff. So we're going to use that value and we're going to drop that in the back here, and we're just going to merge this down, do select all, edit and copy, edit and paste, and I can close down the normals now, we don't need them. For the cavity map, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm actually going to fill this with white, no sorry, black again, so fill that with black. Just merge those down. Being as I'm not keeping these open, I might as well just merge them down rather than merging to another layer. I'll paste those in. And then we have our bent normal maps. Now bent normal maps doesn't really matter, we're only going to be extracting certain values from them. So once again I'm going to just type in a neutral normal map colour. Put that in the background. Like I say, it doesn't really matter in this kind of sense, but we're only going to be using a few elements from it. It's not going to be actually a map that we use. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to name these layers, just double click on the name and just going to type in what they are. The cavity maps are actually going to act as our ambient occlusion. just because it works out better that way. So what we have here is all of our maps, and now we just want to organise them into folders rather. So just click on the Create Folder button down here. Okay, so we're going to be working on each one of these individually. So we're going to have a lot more layers on top of the others. So let's just go ahead and get ourselves organised. So this is going to be the bent normals. It's going to be the cavity, normals, ambient occlusion, and our vertex colours. Okay, so first of all, let's turn off everything that we don't need. So let's turn off everything except for the V-cols. And then here we're going to edit everything so that we don't have any misshapen parts or problems in this area. As you can see, we had some problems with the projections here. So we're just going to fix that up. I'm going to create a new layer over the top. And here, I'm just going to get a paintbrush. And I'm going to grab a sort of hard round brush. Bring up my presets. I'm going to turn off shape dynamics. And I'm going to turn the hardness down as well, so it's a bit softer. So from here I'm just going to click the Alt key, the Alt button. I'm just going to paint in where we've got these sort of problem areas. Just going to sample the colours from around it and just paint out these problems. Reduce the hardness a little bit more. If you want a bit more control, you can reduce the opacity up at the top. So that's the problem areas taken care of. Then we have lost a little bit of our texture there. So I'm just going to grab the clone brush, clone stamp over here. Just going to increase the size of it a bit, and I'm going to Alt and click on an area where I've actually got some skin texture, essentially, just sort of little bits of noise and such, and I'm just going to drop that in over the layer. Just remember at the top, choose current and below, or all layers, and that will sample all the layers that you have below this or above this. I'm just going to set that to current and below. So all I'm doing is just trying to get a little bit of our detail back in. So you can see we've got some sort of slight indications of wrinkles and dirt and such. So I'm just basically cloning that back in. Now obviously the eyes are going to be going in here, so it's not a major deal, but it's good to have the detail sort of carrying on. After all, we worked to put it in, so we might as well use it. So that's that done. Another bit worth clearing up would be around the nose here. And then of course the lips. So let's just sample the top of the lip, and we'll just bring that down. So this is going to be enhanced a little bit later on. And what else we got? We got this mess of a mouth bag here. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in essentially the colour of the inside of a mouth. I'm just going to paint that over. Just be careful of the size, we don't want it to clip over onto the rest of the head. So just make sure that hasn't happened. We're just going to drop a selection around this area, just so that we don't interfere with the edges of the head here. If we actually start changing the colour here, we'll get a noticeable seam, and that's never good. So let's just paint in a mouth colour. Add a bit more darkness to the inside. And then I'm just going to sample the colour from the lips, or one of the colours. And because this area joins into the lips, I'm just going to sort of drop that colour around the edges, just so we can get a little bit of a transition going there. So that should just about do it. Let's just drop the selection. Let's right click and press deselect. And let's see what else we've got. So the rest of the head is pretty clean. Got a bit of an issue down here. So I'm just going to tidy that up using the clone brush. If I remember correctly, I don't think we had a tattoo on the front of his head. So let's just go ahead and paint that out. Be very careful around the seams, because this is going to go back into his body. So just paint out that tattoo, but leave those as they are, because the body should be able to pick up the rest of that. So the last thing are the eyes. Let's just sample the colour, and then we'll paint that in. So these are going to be sort of the insides of the eye. So towards the inside of the eye, we can actually put in a bit of a flesh, more of a flesh tone. So that should just about cover it. The nostrils, we can darken those up. Let's just get a darker red. And around the centre, we can just darken those up. And that should work just fine for us. Okay, so there's our colour map fixed. So what do we do with it now? Obviously it doesn't seem to have any shape, you can't tell what it is really. So let's start bringing in something a little bit more useful. Let's turn on our cavity map. And I'm just going to fix the cavity map up, because it's looking a little bit bad at the moment. So again, I'm just going to paint over this area just to even it out a bit. Just going to sample the colours that I have around and try not to destroy too much detail that we have there. So I'm just basically smoothing this back in. Could use the smudge brush as well if you wanted to, but I'm just trying to keep the edges quite accurate so it kind of fades in. This area is going to be quite dark in the centre, so let's just darken that up. We'll do the same over this side. Okay, so once again, just going to put a little bit more detail in using the clone brush, and I'm just going to grab this kind of area where we've got some wrinkles. I'm just going to start Let's just change the brush, so something softer, and take the opacity down so I can build this up a little bit better. Let's just put a few more wrinkles in this area, just because they were there in the first place. Okay, so let's do the same with the lips. Let's just clone these up a little bit more so it closes this gap. Just turn the opacity back up. That's just wiping out our detail. Obviously we don't want to do that. Just go in here and start. Oh, it's because I've got the wrong brush selected, of course. There we go, clone brush. That's what I'm after. So the brush is just acting a little bit strange. Doesn't seem like my pressure sensitivity is actually functioning properly. This area is going to be a bit of a pain. So I think I'm just going to do it a little bit on the old-fashioned way. Just going to set a feather on my lasso tool, and I'm going to set it to about 10 pixels because this is quite a high resolution area. So I'm just going to select this area, and I'm just going to deselect this section here, and I'm going to hit Control T, and I'm just going to drag this down a bit. That's definitely not going to work. Let's just go back to cloning. I think I'm just going to undo that. Just going to have a check to see what kind of effect it'll have if we just paint out this area. So this is going to be on the inside of the lips anyway, so I think what we might end up doing is just kind of fading it so it will give some shadow. And yeah. So I'm just going to fade this off some more and turn the flow down, because this, for some reason this brush seems to be a little bit too intense even with pressure sensitivity on. Pressure sensitivity is working, it's just a little bit over the top. So I'm just going to fade this back in so we get a bit more of a softer gradient. So hard lines on your textures are a dead giveaway that there's a seam there. So fading them back is always a good idea. So that might work out okay for us. If we need to, we can always tweak it a bit later. Just going to take this colour grey value and just going to drop this over this area here. So I'm just going to grab the lasso tool, make a selection around it so it don't affect the head. And then I'm just going to paint over it. Just going to turn the opacity and the flow all the way up. And just fill that area in. Really not bothered about this point. Okay, so that's all done. Let's see where else we needed to tidy things up. Let's just do the centre of the nostrils down here. Let's just choose a dark colour and fill those in. and just sample the same sort of grey that we have there, and we'll just pop these in here. Just so it matches up, and just tidy up that little issue inside the ear there. Okay, so now what this will do, this will enhance the detail on our texture map. So let's do select all and copy. It's going to turn off the cavity map for now and go back to our vcols, and I'm just going to drop that in on top. Now from here I'm going to go to the layer blending mode, and I'm going to select multiply. You see that already looks a whole lot better. So that's put in a few shadows in the eyes, in the mouth, around the backs of the ears and such. It's put in some of the wrinkles and the extra detail. So that's definitely enhanced what we've got. What we can do, just to enhance this a little bit further, is first of all, let's just duplicate this and turn off the layer below it. What I want to do is add a colour value to it. So I'm going to double click on the layer, and I'm going to go to colour overlay. I'm going to set the overlay to, well, overlay mode, and just to give it a bit of a pink tint, let's just set this to a colour that I can remember. So maybe 200, 200, 255, 200, 200. And I'm going to drag the opacity down. This is going to add a little bit of red to the shadows. Probably not the overall effect that we're really going for. So let's cancel that. Go onto the adjustments layer and go hue saturation. And I'm going to click colorize. And this will change the colour of the map from black and white to sort of a red and white. And we can change the saturation. I'm just going to set it at 10 because it's an easy figure to remember. And we can change the lightness, just leave that at 0. Because the effect that we apply here, we're going to have to apply to any other detail that we do on the skin, otherwise things are going to look a little bit strange. So just add a little bit of red to the shadows and press OK. And there's still something a little bit more that we can do here. We're going to ignore the ambient occlusion. I don't think I'm going to use that at all. But we're going to turn on the bent normal maps. Now, the bent normal maps, obviously we can't go copy and pasting this over the top of our texture because it has no value in the colours. But what we are going to do is take the separate channels from this. If we have a look at the red channel, you see that we have the light coming in from the right hand side. If we have a look at the green channel, we have the light coming in from the top. And if we have a look at the blue channel, we have the light coming in from the bottom. What I'm going to do is just take the green channel first of all. I'm going to do select all and edit copy. Head back into my layers and drop down to the V colors. And I'm just going to paste that in there. I'm going to turn off the bent normal map. And from here, you'll be able to see that it's a little bit easier to see that we've got light on the top of the head, and it's putting in some of the softer shadows of the different areas. So from here we could put this into a multiply mode if we wanted to. That's going to bring things out quite well. It's going to put things a little bit too dark, but we can fade it back just by changing the opacity of the layer. Just remember the opacity that you set, because you're going to have to do this with the rest of the body as well, and every other element. That's skin. So let's go ahead and just drop this down to roughly 55%. I say roughly, I mean exactly. I'm going to duplicate this, and then I'm going to turn it on to screen mode. Not screen, soft light. And that's going to add the highlight to the top of the head. See, if we turn off the soft light layer, turn it back on, things look a whole lot more 3D. So that's good. But before we really do that, I just want to tidy up this map in the first place. So let's just put the opacity back up. and activate normal. And we're just going to tidy this map up as well. So from here, let's just paint in black, because that's what the colour is there. We'll do the clone brush, just to sample these wrinkles and continue them on into this black area. And we'll just do the same over the other side. Just put in a bit of detail which we lost, and then just create the gradient so it goes to the eye sockets. Okay, do the same around the mouth. Let's just try the clone brush, and we'll just kind of clone that down a little bit. Probably not the best. Probably sampling too large an area, I guess. That should do it. It's just going to screw with the details, so I think I'm just going to fade this out again. Just going to choose a dark grey or almost black. And I'm just going to edit out these sections. We've got a bit of garbage in there. So just get rid of any hard, jagged edges and fade it in. There we go. Just do the same in the nose area, just fade that to black there, or dark grey. The same in the ears. Just going to close down the bent normal maps just to free up a bit of memory. And sort out the nostrils there. And as for these eye sections, I'm just going to sample the eye sockets we got there and just paint over them, because these are inside the eyes, so it's just going to fade to it, which is going to be fine. So for the inside of the mouth, exactly the same again. I think this is probably what caused a lot of the issues, because our high res also had a mouth bag, so we would have also had intersecting geometry there, which is what caused this in the first place. It's no problem, it's easily fixed. So with that done, that's pretty much all the shadows tidied up. Can't see any more issues anywhere. So let's put this onto multiply and duplicate it and put it onto soft light. And just turn the multiply layer down to about, I think it's 60 or 55, so 55. And for the soft light, just bring that down a little bit more to around about 55 as well. So we've got two pretty intense effects, but they come together quite well. So I quite like that. It's all good. Yeah, that'll work absolutely fine for us. Okay, so that's our head. Let's start putting the rest together. So let's just go ahead and save this out as a texture. So we're just going to go to Save As. Just going to drop this into the projects folder. So we have texture bakes, and I'm just going to create one called texture edits, and I'm going to drop that into the texture bakes folder. So we have our raw folder, and then we have our fixed up textures. So this is forge head and save.png. Okay, let's wait for that to save. So let's save the PNG, and I'm just going to save the actual file itself as PSD. That's going to be the head. Now we need to do the same with the beard. Oh, if I actually had this on the right screen, it'd help. So it's saving out the PSD. Let's go ahead and do the same for the beard. So I'm just going to drag my files in here. I'm going to select the beard, hold down Shift, and select everything, and drop that in. This is going to be really easy to do, so let's go ahead and get that sorted. Just going to close down the head for now, just to save some memory. So I'm just going to create a new file at 4096, and I'm going to make the background black. And we're just going to go into the vcols once again, add a black background, merge it down, Control A, Control C, go back to our empty document and press Control V. And this is the occlusion. Funnily enough, it looks exactly the same as the vcols, so I'm not going to use it. The normals. So remember, set the neutral normal map color 128 by 128 by 255. Okay. Drag a background in, merge it down, and select all, copy, and paste. I'll take the cavity map. Oops, create 2 layers, doesn't matter. And do select all. Oops, wrong button. And edit, select all, edit, copy, and edit, paste. Do the bent normal maps. Let's just go back to our normals and sample the color. And we'll just drop that in the background, merge down, select all, copy, and paste. Oh, that's weird. Edit, copy, and edit, paste. It looks like this might well be in grayscale. Go into mode, image mode, and then RGB color. Press don't flatten, and then we can paste, and we'll have to put our normal maps back in again. So edit, copy, edit, paste. There we go. So now we have our vcols, have our normals, we have our cavity, which I use as ambient occlusion because it does the same job, and bent normal, and there we go. So let's turn these off and just start adding a few groups. So this is going to be the vcols, this is going to be the normals, it's going to be the cavities, and this is going to be the bent normals. So even though we're not going to be doing anything massive in this, it's just something which I've got used to doing. It helps to have things organised. You never know when you might end up pasting things back and forth, and I've ended up with so many layers before I've forgotten which one does what. So plus, if you end up having to pass this on to somebody else to do something further for you, then it's a nightmare trying to find your way around somebody else's document when it's a complete mess. So we have the vcols. We don't have any particular issues except for, if I remember correctly, something down here which Well, this isn't really going to show up a whole lot anyway, so I'm just going to paint that out. There we go. And that's the only issue that I'm aware of. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so sort out the normals next. I think that's something I forgot to do on head actually, is fix the normals. So I'll just jump back to that in a second once we've done the beard. So I'm just sampling the colours just to kind of keep the flow right. And I don't see any other pressing issues here. Being so I don't have to worry about seams on the beard, I'm just going to paint that out here. Just keep that same colour all around. Just in case. Just going to basically use the neutral background to fade it so that it goes into a straight normal. And I'm going to do the same in here. Again, it shouldn't really affect anything because this is going to be inside the face, so we shouldn't see any problems caused by that, but sometimes it's just nice to be tidy. There we go. That's the beard fixed. In terms of the normal map, let's go into the cavity and we'll fix up the cavity down here. So let's just grab a grey colour, fill that in, sample whatever's around it. Just to blend it. That'll do fine. And around here. So these aren't actual issues at these points. What I should point out is that when you bake your map, when we had the edge padding set at 6 pixels, what that does is it takes the colour of the pixel at the edge of the UV map's border and it duplicates it out 6 times. So it essentially pads it for you to help reduce things like seams and stuff like that, which is really helpful. Sometimes you don't need it, sometimes you do, but I usually end up over painting the borders anyway because it's not going to affect anything, and if we're using a single colour then it doesn't really matter too much. There we go. So let's do the bent normals next. Again, not a whole lot to really fix here. It just needs basically mirroring over. So I think I'm going to give that a try. Going to make sure I got rid of any feathering on my lasso tool. And I'm just going to select this. And I'm going to do edit copy, edit paste. I'm going to do transform and flip vertical, and hopefully that'll sit nicely in here for us. Might need to adjust the size a bit. And just erase around the edge. Yeah, to be honest, it's kind of pointless. I'm just gonna paint over that. Just sample the colours that are around it. And it's gonna give us the same result. We're only going to use this to enhance some of the shading anyway. So from here I'm just going to sample the edge colour, paint out these bits. Again, these parts are inside the mesh anyway, so you know, we're not going to notice any effects that this has on stuff, so it's not a big deal. but I do like to keep things fairly neat, so not going to bother with the back of the beard for that one. So from here we'll go into channels and we'll choose the, I think we'll go for the green channel again, green and blue. So yeah, the light's coming in from the right hand side of the beard. Got the green that's coming in from the top and the blue from the bottom. So that's all good. Let's just go ahead and select all and copy. I think it was the blue channel we wanted. Possibly. So that's the light coming from the top. I think I'll go with the green channel on this one. Go back to our layers and turn off the bent normals, and we'll head back to select RGB mode. Turn off the cavity for now. Go back to the vcols, and we'll just paste that in there first of all. Then going to go to the cavity map and select all and copy and paste. Let's make the vcols active, turn everything else off. And let's just set this as multiply. So you can see the effect that it has. It's pretty subtle, it just gives us a bit more of a softer shadow around the areas where it dips in, which is pretty nice. Let's do the same for this layer. Put it onto multiply. Darkens everything up quite a bit. So I'm just going to drag that down to, might as well do 55 on here as well. And I'm going to duplicate that layer and I'm going to put it onto soft light. And that's going to be on 55 as well. So that's the beard done in terms of the vcols. So let's sort out what I'm doing here. Let's just set that as beard. So just save that. And that's going to be our beard file. So what I want to do now is just check what I was doing with the head. Let's just go ahead and close these down. Okay, so let's open up the head again. So we've got Forge Head PSD. So we saved out the vcols, the vertex colors. I'm going to go save as PNG. I'm actually going to delete this first of all because I forgot to add vcols at the end. I'm actually going to call it _DM for display for diffuse map and press save. Press OK. Once that's finished saving, we're going to export out the normal map, which we still need to fix up. So let's go ahead and do that while it's saving. Just going to create a new layer over the top of this one. And here, there's going to be no detail that we need, so I'm just going to blot this out with the background color. Same there. And here, I'm just going to sort of do the same thing, just kind of sample the colors that are around the area to get the same kind of effect. And now this one's going to be a little bit annoying. So let's just do the clone stamp. It's going to make the size a little bit bigger for us. I'm going to clone stamp this a little bit further up and a bit further along, so we're not losing all of our nice normal map detail. It's not going to look as good as it did, but most of the detail is still going to be there for us. Normal maps are usually the trickiest part to fix up, just because they do contain a lot of data. It's usually data that we don't want to lose, so just going to clone as much of it as I can so we don't lose too much information. As you can see, we've got a lot of the skin pores and things on there, so I'm going to see if I can save as much of that as I can just by mirroring the colours that are in the area. Now these little issues were barely visible when we previewed it in the 3D viewer of XNormal, so I'm hoping that a lot of our detail is going to carry on through. So hopefully that'll be okay. Oops, that definitely wouldn't. And let's just do the same down here. Let's just echo the colours right at the bottom. So there would be no detail here that we'd be losing, so what we really want to do is just follow the surface normals using the colours. So I just want to kind of fade it into something which it looks like it continues on from this point. Again, this wasn't terribly noticeable in the 3D preview from XNormal, so I've got confidence that just tidying up this edge and removing the hardness from it will actually do the job that we need it to. As for the inside of the mouth, I'm just going to blot it out with background colour. Just going to make a selection just to protect the seams around the back of the head. Yep, that'll be safe. And just going to blot that out entirely. So that's everything fixed there. And what we're going to do is save that out as a normal map. So we're going to do head underscore NM for normal map. It's just the naming convention that I use. You can use whatever you like. I just got used to it from the indie projects I worked on. So that's going to save out at the bottom here. It's going to take a little while to do that. One thing that we will need is a specular map, but we're going to do the specular maps all together. So just getting out the main forms that we need. So I'm going to save that. And we're going to close the head and the beard. And looks like I'm just going to reopen the beard because I forgot to save everything out. So I'm going to go save as, choose PNG. And I'm going to do beard underscore DM and save. Okay. I'll save out the PNG for the vcols, and we're going to do the same for the normal map next. File, save as, PNG, and forge underscore beard underscore NM. Okay. Let's get that saved out. I believe the only thing that we need to put together now is the eyes and the beard braids. They should be on the same map, if I recall correctly. Just going to save that PSD, and I'm going to bring in the eyes. So we have a whole bunch of useless stuff mostly, but let's go ahead and bring these in. Okay, so we've got no use for the occlusion, The normals will have some useful. Not so sure about these bits, but we'll see what happens. We don't need the cavity maps for the eyes. And the bent normals, we'll see. So let's go ahead and add a background on here. If I remember what I'm doing. There we go, paint bucket. Drag that layer underneath. Control A, Control C. New document, open up, and Control V. So the normals, once again, just set that to 128, 128, 255. Drop in a background, merge them down, Control A and Control C, Control V. We'll take the bent normals, you never know, they might come in handy. See what kind of effect we get from them. Control C, Control V. Let's just close down these because we don't need them anymore. Okay, so we got bent normal map. We have just the normal map and the vcols. Okay, so have we got anything that we need to fix here? A little bit of blurring around the edges, so let's just come in here with our brush and we'll just pop that around just to bleed it out a little bit. Same with this one. And it really doesn't matter about the backs of the eyes because obviously you don't have a pupil on the back of your eye, that'd be weird. But let's just make it all the same colour so it all matches up. Just in case, say in the course of his journeys we decide that we want to smash his head and have eyes flying everywhere, so that'd be a little bit cruel though, I think. So for this we don't have any holes in the centre of these braids, so I'm just going to fill those in just with a dark grey. That'll be fine. So on here, just again fill out any little discrepancies. They're not a major part, so it's not going to matter too much. So from here, let's just fix up the normal map. So we've got a little bit of an issue there, but this can be easily fixed. Let's just select this slice here. I'm going to copy it, I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to transform it, and helps if I put it in the right place. Put it over the top. Nope, wrong one. Ignore that. Let's just do a clone along here. There we go. So actually the main bit that we actually want is sort of the iris, the lens. So what I'm going to do is to prevent any sort of seams, I'm just going to take the background colour and I'm just going to fade it up towards the inside. So really all we have is the lens of the eye, which will help deflect some of the light, so that looks fine. We'll do the same here, let's just fill in the centre. probably be a good idea to actually work on a new layer. Totally obliterating this stuff, and I have no way to get back otherwise, so I could just load in the normal map again, but create a new layer just to be on the safe side. Don't do what I'm doing here. So again, the backs of the eyes, not important. Paint them out with the neutral background. There we go, and that's everything there. So that's the normal map for the eyes. Now when it comes to the bent normal map, I don't know if this is going to actually add anything to it whatsoever, so let's just have a look. Nah, it's not going to help whatsoever, so we'll just forget out about the bent normal map. We'll export the vcols, so file save as PNG, and we'll do underscore eyes. Okay. And we'll do the normal maps. Save as PNG. There we go. And that's all done. So cool, let's just save this. Save as forge underscore eyes. That's all good. So now all we need to do is just paste these together. So I'm just going to open all these PNG files. Okay, so we have the normal maps, we have the, I'm just going to move all of the diffuse maps over to one side and then all of the normal maps over to the other. So let's start with the beard. I'm just going to zoom in, and from here I'm just going to select around the beard, leaving a bit of space. Oops, missed a spot. There we go. So I'm going to edit and copy. And then I'm going to go to the head. In fact, sorry, screw that. I'm going to select the entire thing because then it will get pasted in the correct place. I'm going to set the opacity down so I can see where the head is. I'm going to use the selection tool just to draw around it. Let's just join up that selection. I can zoom in and tidy this up. There we go. So select the beard, just do Control Shift and I to invert the selection and then press delete. We can then turn the opacity back up so that we have everything all on the same texture map. Just do the same for the eyes, so select all, edit copy, paste it over the head and reduce the opacity so we can see where things lie. So you can see we would have a bit of overlap here, so we need to fix that. So let's grab the selection tool and let's just select around here. we go. Got the eyes, so let's just select around the eyes. They don't overlap with anything, so that's all good. Make sure we don't overlap with the neck though. There we go. Okay, so from here we'll just do Control Shift I and delete. Let's just drop the selection, can do Control D on the keyboard and let's drop that back up. So now we have entire head texture. So let's go ahead and save that. Let's do Save As and do PNG. And from here, we're just going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this Final. Just going to put a 1 at the front of this so I can organize these files a little bit easier. In fact, I'm just going to delete that folder and just realized I have a Final folder here. So we're just going to go into our Final folder and type in textures, create a new file here. So we have head as _dm as a PNG. That's save. We'll also save it as a PSD as well, so we can always come back to it. But before we do that, we're just going to put the normal maps in. I'm going to create I'm just going to create a new background first of all. Just going to duplicate that, delete the one with the lock on it, put a new background in and make that black. So now we have the diffuse map, so DM, we have eyes, we have beard, we have head. Now we want to bring in drag those onto the folder. We want to bring in the normal map. So let's just drag that in there as well. So let's create a new file, new folder, and call it normal. And I'm going to create a new layer inside there, and we're going to put in our neutral map, so 128 by 128 by 255, and drop that in there. Now we can actually do this a little bit quicker, I think. Let's try this. I've never tried this before, but we're going to see if it will work. I'm going to copy in the head normal. That's going to be the base of everything. So I'm going to do copy, select all, edit, copy, and I'm going to go into just going to close these other files because I don't need them. I'm going to put the normal over the head, and then going to take the beard and copy that. I'm going to put that over the top of the beard layer on here, and then for the eyes I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to copy that, I'm going to paste that over the top of the eyes, and then I'm going to select the normal map above the beard and do a layer create clipping mask, which may have worked. Yep. Okay. Then I'm going to do the same for the eyes. So make the eyes visible, and then do layer create clipping mask. And what that's going to do is it's just going to basically put our normal maps and things over the non-transparent areas, so the opaque areas below. It's just going to fill those in. So I'm just going to do Control Shift Alt Add E now, and that's going to flatten it down to a normal map for us, which we can then turn on, and we can delete these layers. So a neat little shortcut, save us having to cut out more of them. Let's just move that background under there, and there we go. We have our normal map. So let's do File, Save As. We're going to save this as head_NM Save. And we'll be using these files a bit later on to create specular maps, so that's going to be fun. Just wait for that to save up. That's taken a while. Okay, that's saved up. So let's just go ahead and save this PSD file in the finals folder. Just call it forge_head PSD and save that. Shouldn't take half as long to save. There we go. Okay, so that's all the bits and pieces done for the head. Now what I'd like to do is just do a quick preview just to see what it would look like. Now what we're going to do first of all is I'm going to see if I can get Unity open, and we're going to import the FBX file that we exported, and we're going to see how it looks inside of Unity. Okay, so we're inside Unity. What we're going to do first of all, I'm just going to set this up as a new project. So I'm going to go to File and New Project. I'm going to click on Browse and going to go to my Unity projects. Created a new folder called Forgemaster, and I'm going to select New Project. So when it comes to things that we want in here, I'm not bothered about character controller because I'm not going to make a move around. Don't need particles. But it'd be nice to have some image effects though for rendering, and maybe a few particles. Let's see what else we've got. Don't need any more scripts. We don't need some skyboxes. We'll do. Let's have a look. I'll have water in there because there can be some useful things. Tessellation shaders, standard assets. To be honest, don't think we need any of those. Let's just have the image effects only, and we'll turn off all the other assets because that's just the mobile asset. So let's go ahead and press create, and that's just going to reload Unity for us. If you ever get any of these messages, it's because my antivirus interferes with it, so I'm just going to disable until the next restart. Press try again and it'll be fine. So just while this loads in, just going to pause the video. Okay, so we've got our empty scene. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to right click and create a folder down here and call this Forgemaster, and just enter on it, and we can go to import new asset. So right click, import new asset, go to our projects folder, go to tutorials, we'll go to Forgemaster and then our final. We'll go to our FBX and import the FBX, and that'll import it for us. So for the scale factor I'm going to set this to 1 just so it's the same size. We want to import the normals with it. It'll calculate the tangents for it. We don't need to import any blend shapes, and we don't want to generate colliders or swap any UVs or generate light map UVs. That's fine. We'll import the materials, and we'll do import by from models material, and then press apply, and then we can drag our Forgemaster into the scene, and we haven't set the base point at his feet, so he's going to be just below the ground, which is fine just for our render, but there we go. So we have our Forgemaster in Unity. Just going to expand this window a bit more. So controls within Unity, if you hold down the right mouse button, you can use WASD to move around just like you would in a video game, and look around using the mouse while holding the right mouse button. So I'm going to click on our guy, click on him again, and we'll get a texture breakdown here. So these are all the materials that we have assigned. Seems like we're missing one. It's going to be for the hammer and the apron by the looks of things, because we had them as separate objects. So they've still imported, but they're going to be separate meshes. So that's fine. So we have our upper torso and we have our head. What I want to do first of all is just going to right click and create a new folder. I'm going to call this textures and press enter to open it. Import new asset. I'm going to go to my textures file and I'm going to import the diffuse map. Up here, make sure we've got it set to texture. Got the wrap mode as repeat. I'm going to set the filter level to trilinear and the aniso level up to the top. I'm going to set this to, I'm going to try it at 4096 for now. I don't advise this, but it'll give us, a good idea of what our texture looks like at high res, and then we can compress it later on. Click on apply. That'll take a few moments to process it. There we go. We're going to go to import new asset, and we're going to select the normal map and import that. We're going to change the texture type to normal map. Turn off create from grayscale. And set it to trilinear, turn the anisotropic up and go to 4096 for the resolution and press apply. There's my windows just on the side of my monitor, there we go. And from here, let's go ahead and put this on our dude's head. So just double click on your model. And we're just going to drag this texture over to the head. We're going to drop it into the diffuse channel. And there we go, we have our texture. It looks pretty decent. Now see, it's only got the one texture channel. What we want to do is double click on him again and we'll change this to bumped specular. So it's going to be quite shiny at this point. But what we'll do here is drop the normal map into the normal map section there. And when we have main color, I actually want to click on that and set that to white. And where we have the specular color, I'm going to do the same thing. Now the specular color, we need to turn the shininess up. Now we will be having a specular map which we'll be using, which will be part of our diffuse texture later on. So at the moment the diffuse, the specular is going to look really strange, but it's going to be able to show up our details. And that's looking pretty decent. Quite like that. Let's just turn the specular off for now, so I'm just going to go bumped diffuse. So we've got a lot of detail showing up there. And that's good. No problems appearing. Might even scale the model up a little bit more just so we've got a little bit more fine control with the camera. So let's just select our model and we're just going to scale him up a bit more. There we go. So now we can navigate a little bit smoother now. There we go. So that looks pretty decent. Around the back of the head we've got some nice detail in there. No real issues to speak of. Quite happy with that. And the beard doesn't look too bad either, so that's good. We've got our braids down there. Cool, so we'll do the specular maps a little bit later on, but that's the head. So I'm going to call this the end of the chapter here, guys, and then we'll work on the rest of the getting the rest of the maps together and putting them together, and we'll have to manually paint these accessories on the front, but it's coming together and the end is in sight. So take care, guys, and I'll see you soon.